Cleared Hot takes me back to a different era of gaming, back when little 8-year-old level cap would get home from school, plug in a cartridge to his Sega Genesis console, and boot up Desert Strike, a fantastic top-down helicopter game, back in the era of most games being some sort of top-down or side-scrolling adventure. And this game is, without question, a spiritual successor to the Strike series, and it doesn't hide its inspirations, but it does improve upon them, with some awesome physics, fun, dynamic destruction, surprisingly good writing, and a myriad of your favorite combat helicopters to unlock. Now, I found out about Cleared Hot several years back when I Googled to see if there was any sort of Desert Strike remake, and it found this little indie project. I reached out to Colin, the lead developer of the game, to express my interest in what he was making, and we've been buddies ever since. I got to play and give feedback on early builds of the game and give him some YouTube advice and whatnot. In fact, he graciously gave me a credit in the game, which he totally didn't have to do, but it was a nice surprise to see this upon beating the game. And it's been a pleasure to watch his small project of just 1 to 2 people find a publisher with micropros, grow the team, and then get the game ready for its early access release, which is today on Steam. Now, Colin gave me access to an early copy of the game so I could get a video ready, and I gotta say, I am really impressed with what he's done, and I really enjoyed my time running through the missions. There's a fun little learning curve for each of the enemy types. The helicopter controls have a little skill progression as well, and it starts to feel really satisfying once you start to nail them down and get your circle strafes working. Something that's really grown on me since playing some very early builds of the game is the ability to lower your helicopter close to the ground. It's now very easy to use and super satisfying to actually put your helicopter behind cover or walls to block incoming missile strikes. If you're careful and you don't run into things, you can mitigate a lot of damage and feel like a total badass while you're doing it. Now, the game's prologue gives you an Apache helicopter to get a little bit of a taste of what a full combat heli can do, but then for the most part the game starts you off with the Little Bird, which is kind of a bare bones helicopter, but it's fast, nimble, and really fun to fly. It also looks really cool when you pick up NPCs for your mission objectives, and they'll sit on the outside of the helicopter until you drop them off at the waypoint. There's actually a surprising amount of functionality in this game that I wasn't expecting. I was more or less just expecting a helicopter that flies around and blows things up, but there's full driving physics for the vehicles on the ground. They can do jumps, they blow up in cool ways. The soldiers you fight have actual ragdoll physics. They can fall off towers and they'll splat into little body parts when they hit the ground. There's actual dynamic destruction, so when your shots hit buildings and do damage, they'll crack and break realistically based on where the impact is. Basically, any feature that makes it look cooler while you shoot stuff is in the game. And just like the original Strike games, your helicopter has this cool little tow cable which can be used to pick up health and ammo quickly. But this time around, it can also be used for all sorts of physics gameplay. Picking up vehicles and ferrying them across rivers, or just bringing containers to points, or picking up explosive barrels to drop on enemies, picking up quads or pickup trucks that are mid-firefight and dropping them on stuff while the passengers fall out. It's pretty awesome. And I didn't explore this feature enough, but I have no doubt that players are going to find all kinds of creative ways to kill enemies. Colin says you can actually hook a soldier, fling them up into the air, and then get them with the rotor blades on the way down, which obviously I'm going to have to try right after I publish this video. Now, as you progress through the missions, you'll earn cash along the way, which you can then spend on beefier helicopter weapons and new helicopters like this awesome Hind. I've always loved the look of the Hind. It's kind of the tank of helicopters, and it just has a stupid amount of firepower and an epic Soviet-era look. And watching it fly around Texas, blowing up trucks and warehouses, just tickles me. The helicopters also have a nice feel to them, even if it is a bit arcadey. The Hind moves slower and feels more appropriately balanced compared to the smaller helis. And there's a decent amount of stat differences, like the ability to carry a lot more weapons or a lot more passengers and stuff like that, so different helis could be better for specific missions. One of the more unexpected additions to Cleared Hot is a really fun story and good comedic writing.
Okay, all pickups put down.
Yeah, I don't see any more coming.
Good, because the boys down at the Big Rock Saloon need a hand. Can you head over?
Haven't poured me a cold one. I'm on my way.
Ain't it a little early?
Been a stressful morning, Sheriff.
Yeah, afternoon's looking rough too.
Like, I was half expecting the game to just have some typical typed up mission reports, the gameplay would be without voiceovers, and the plot points would be more boilerplate like terrorists have a nuke and you gotta stop them, or just something simple like that. But that is not the case here. You're an ex-military helicopter pilot who's given a little bird helicopter by a scrapyard owner in exchange for some piloting errands. You know, the typical way one inherits a military-grade combat vehicle. Anyway, you quickly find yourself roped into a bigger plot with a really entertaining bad guy that may even hit a little close to home. I really want to spoil the plot, but I won't, but it is funny and oddly relevant. The characters are also written very charmingly, they're quippy in a good way, and it really just adds a lot more depth and enjoyment to the campaign than I was expecting from a title like this.
See? No reason to sweat.
Actually, I'm seeing a pretty good reason right now.
What?
They got a tank.
What?
Goddamn armored tank, Travis, north side.
Hell, that ain't great. Woo! Okay, that was the whole thing.
Ain't the last thing either. Here come the trucks.
All right, hang tight, bud.
Now, speaking of the campaign missions, this is an early access game, so currently it only has Chapter 1, but there will be 3 total chapters and side mission content by the time the game hits 1.0. Currently, the game's on sale for $14.99 with a time-limited 10% discount applied to that also, and I think by the time that this game has actual 3 chapters of campaign content, it will be quite the deal, though I do think the price may increase by the 1.0 release, so it might be a nice incentive to be an early adopter. Now, when I first started chatting with Colin about this game, it was mostly him building the entire project with a little bit of modeling help. His very first prototype helicopter project looked like the GOAT simulator of helicopter games. He had some really simple goals of hitting 7,000 wish lists on Steam. However, as the project evolved, he made a really great trailer and compelling gameplay, earning him a viral video on YouTube and spiking the wish lists. Microprose then expressed interest in publishing the game, became his publisher, and now he's got a core team of 8 people with some part-time help and a solid path towards a 1.0 release with a ton more content. And at the time of his early access release, his wishlist count passed 150,000, and it's just been really cool to watch this journey unfold and see a small project become, well, still a small project, but a much more successful and heard about small project. The team's really delivered on the vibe of the old games while updating the gameplay for a modern audience. It's easy to see many paths forward for this new content and features, and I'm quite excited to see this title evolve towards its 1.0 release and beyond. If you think Cleared Hot looks like something you might enjoy, I encourage you to check out the game on Steam. No, this is not a sponsored video, but Colin is my friend, and this is a project that I would absolutely like to see get enough funds to expand its content and feature set. I hope you enjoyed this Cleared Hot early access first look. I'd be curious to know if you guys played the original Strike games, or if you didn't, how does Cleared Hot look without that nostalgic background? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching. This is LevelCap, signing off.